I believe we are live. Welcome back. I hope you had a great break, and I'm delighted to introduce our next speaker to you. She had a passion for the digital realm long before many of her colleagues in politics and elsewhere were able to even spell digitization, and so it is only fair that she became Germany's first state minister for digitization. She will give us an overview of Germany's AI strategy. Dorothee Bär, how are you? The floor is yours. I see the timer has started already, but I don't see Dorothee Bär yet. But I just had the okay from our control room a couple of minutes ago, so I hope it's only a matter of seconds or maybe minutes to connect us. Oh, now we have a picture. Dorothee Bär, hi, we can see you. I'm not sure, I don't have sound yet. No, I can't hear anything. I can see you crystal clear and a little bit of art in the background. And people are running around trying to fix it, so I hope we will hear you in a minute. And thank you very much. When we started the conference this morning, there was a lot of talk about how Germany and Europe will be able to hold up against the tech giants in China and the US. So I think it's very important that we get to know the German AI strategy a lot better. And I also hope that the sound problem will be fixed soon. Tech team, any indication how long it'll take? Can you hear Dorothee Bär?
Yes, we already talked.
All right, now I heard something.
Oh,
okay, yes,
now?
Great.
Okay.
All right, I'm sorry for the delay.
No problem.
So,
I can hear you perfectly.
Right, so take it away. We see you, we hear you. Thank you.
So I'm just starting now, right?
Right. The
okay,
floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So sometimes maybe people don't want to hear what politicians have to say, but I'm starting anyway. So thank you for the nice introduction, ladies and gentlemen. A famous saying is, set your course by the stars, not by the lights of every passing ship. And I think this is exactly what the next decade of AI will be about, a clear course. Our own course, our European vision of the future, a convincing narrative for our society in the age of AI. We are all well informed about the competitive and economic necessities. The catchword is technological sovereignty. And when we look towards the USA or China, as you just mentioned, we can certainly see the lights of passing speedboats and, of course, tank ships. But what we should work on now is our own vision of an AI made in Europe. And the AI society, so our own AI society, has to have strategies, and they should make this vision a reality. I'm delighted to have this important discussion about the next decade of AI. Pardon? Someone is talking about some questions? I'm sorry, I thought I had to have my keynote now. Are we into questions already?
Yes, I'm sorry, but you were not supposed to hear this. I'm sorry. I was
okay.
my mic was not muted. I'm very sorry for this.
No problem. So I'm just doing the speech again, and then maybe later afterwards. So, ladies and gentlemen, the next decade of AI will no longer be solely about digital networks and the power of machine learning. These are technological prerequisites, no more and no less. Building on this, we need to draw a picture of an AI society in which the human being is at the center, as an active, as in shaping and determining part in a responsive environment. The next decade of AI is not about AI acting, learning, and observing. It is not us who must react to AI. No, the human being in the AI society has the chance to be much more conscious, informed, and actively shaping his own environment. He can quickly gain a deeper understanding of things of interest because he is enabled to fade in and out information as needed and in any level of detail. He will be empowered to be more active and self-determined because new technologies will expand his possibilities, speed and reach enormously. In other words, we are talking about a society in which we can take our creative human abilities to a new level. Because data and information are only a blink of an eye away, and because smart technologies translate our human ideas into actions. In this sense, my vision for Europe would be the AI empowered society. So, what did we do? In this legislative period, the federal government has focused on AI as well as on digital and data policy. We see it as our responsibility to shape the digital transformation of our society and economy in the interest of the people. We will only succeed in doing this if Germany sets standards in global competition. In other words, if even more AI applications made in Europe can hold their own on the world market. This is one of the goals on Germany's AI strategy. So we initially announced 3 billion euros of federal funding to strengthen research and development, support companies in using AI, and invest in the training of future AI experts. Where do we stand today? Almost exactly 2 years after announcing Germany's AI strategy. When it comes to AI, Germany has enormous strengths, and we have been able to build on them. Germany has an excellent reputation for cutting edge AI research, and Europe as a whole can compete with the US and China. Successful structures have been established to transfer research results into applications in the fields of medicine, industry, or mobility, for example. This makes Germany a strong location for innovation and also highly attractive for students and researchers from all over the world. At the same time, international AI research is developing rapidly, and we need to further expand our research capacities. We have to attract even more top talents from Germany. So this is important to establish internationally visible AI ecosystems that can compete with locations such as Stanford or Berkeley, for example. In doing so, we should work closely with our European partners, pooling resources and strength. We will also have to intensify our efforts with regard to our economy, because only a few SMEs have implemented AI in their processes and in their products to date. Companies often lack a sufficient number of well-trained AI specialists. Only a small part of the vast treasure of operational machine or sensor data is used, partly because digital and cloud infrastructures are not yet easily available for everybody at the moment. So we are paying particular attention these needs for action because there are great opportunities for our country. In robotics, in autonomous driving, logistics, or medical engineering. Germany has the potential to lead upcoming technological revolutions, and AI, I'm really convinced about that, will be the game changer in many areas. It will enable us to find answers to pressing future questions, for example, in the fields of climate protection or energy. Ladies and gentlemen, so how do we align our AI strategy to the future? The cabinet will decide about the further development of the AI strategy shortly. In the run up to this decision, discussions were held with numerous experts. The Study Commission on Artificial Intelligence has also done valuable work, which we have followed closely. The diagnosis is anonymous. Germany has the best prerequisites to become a leading location for AI, but so far we have not made enough use of our own potential. Allow me to address 3 fields of actions that I believe are really pressing. First, we need to raise the AI infrastructure in Germany to a new level. Second, in Germany, AI research, we need the courage to be creative and to set thematic priorities. And third, we need novel playgrounds for future applications. Firstly, German research institutions, startups, and very, very important for me, the SMEs need access to trustworthy computing power and AI software nationwide. We also need world-class equipment in the fields of high-performance computing and supercomputing. The Federal Ministry of Research and Education and the Federal Ministry of Economics and Technology will make significant investments in this area. Data is a source for progress and innovation, and that is why we need to tap into new data pools for AI applications and significantly increase data availability and use. We need competitive platforms and cloud infrastructures, but also more data literacy and new approaches for data anonymization, pseudonymization, and synthetic data. The federal government is working intensively on a data strategy that will address these issues. Secondly, research is the engine of our innovation system, especially if you have a head start and the right feel for future trends and issues. In basic research and applications, we need to identify topics of great strategic, economic, and social importance. This may involve developing new AI methods or adapting them for new fields of application, for example, in the micro or nano range, in modern cyber-physical systems at the interface between modeling and machine learning, or in areas like artificial curiosity and creativity. This may also involve mission-oriented research that uses new approaches to tackle major problems in economy or society. We should pay special attention to the emerging fields in which disruptive projects and real game changers could emerge. Not least, researchers in Germany should be encouraged to develop and test ideas outside the mainstream. Ladies and gentlemen, German AI research is excellent, but often not sufficiently visible from a global perspective. A clear profile with few to topics and regional strength is an important as a broad foundation of excellent and creative basic research. In other words, Germany needs AI ecosystems with international appeal. Existing excellent research and transfer structures can be at the heart of such systems, ideally paired with a strong startup ecosystem and the commitment of local businesses. If we succeed in establishing internationally visible AI ecosystems in main areas such as health, climate, robotics, Industry 4.0, this will be a significant pull factor on top AI personnel from science and industry. This is how we can attract more top AI personnel to Germany through visibility and a distinctive profile in AI research, through state-of-the-art equipment and excellent career opportunities. I see it as one of our main tasks to create new incentives for the world's brightest minds and new perspectives for future professors. Thirdly, especially for SMEs, the financial, cultural, or staff-related hurdles are still too high. They are still too high to use the potential of AI on their own initiative. We will expand successful funding instruments, promote regional networking of SMEs with AI institutions, and further develop support structures. Sandboxes, including regulatory ones, can be a vehicle to safely test and develop AI technologies in real-world environments, which could be hospitals, teaching facilities, or highways. Also, the Study Commission on AI recommends to focus on sandboxes to speed up the development of innovative AI applications. At the national and European level, we will promote a clear legal framework and standardization, but also innovation friendliness and freedom of R&D. We will work on coordinated European approaches and strategies, for example, for dealing with risks of AI applications, and contribute to the definition of certification or approval procedures and voluntary commitments. But it is crucial, especially for our SMEs, that we do not set the hurdles too high here too. Ladies and gentlemen, with the further development adopted in June, we are already addressing many of the points that I mentioned. We have decided to increase federal investments from 3 billion to 5 billion euros by 2025. The additional 2 billion euros is intended to enable state-of-the-art computing infrastructures. This is not only about using AI, but about using AI properly to tap its full potential. AI enables us to leave the traditional path, pushes boundaries, and break old patterns. It's all about a real change of paradigm, not about the transfer of old habits into the digital world. A bad digitized process still is a bad process. This simple insight is essential, especially when using AI in our companies. After all, the strength of AI, a learning system, is precisely that the system can find completely new ways to achieve defined goals or even define new goals itself. At the same time, we have for good reason high demands on the explainability and transparency. Mastering this balancing act is one of the exciting challenges for the development of innovative AI according to European standards. We must focus in AI on data literacy in training and further education. As many people as possible should develop a basic understanding of AI, for example, how algorithms are trained and how the quality of the training data influences the results. Everybody in this audience can make a decisive contribution to this. Spread useful experiences and, most importantly, explain them. Point our best practices and address concerns. Ladies and gentlemen, Arthur Schopenhauer said, every person takes the limits of their own field of visions for the limits of the world. This makes it even more important that we bring our perspectives together. Let us intensively discuss our vision for the European AI society, because that's exactly what people expect. A clear course, not just reactions to hot topics in global technology competition. Let's look up at the stars, not just at the lights of the passing ships. So thank you very much for having me today, for inviting me. And now I pass it back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doro Bär. Thank you for a very interesting talk, and thank you for telling us all about the commitments. As you heard by a little sound glitch, there were already questions when you started speaking. Some of them you have already addressed, but let's talk about those who have not been addressed yet. Obviously, the financial commitment that the German government is making, will it be enough compared to giants like, for instance, China and the US, where there is a lot of more money in play in AI?
Well, I think if you ask the question, is the money enough? I think the answer is always no. It's never enough.
Right.
But the most but you can't only count what the German government is giving. Our Bundesländer are giving money, the companies too. And what really interests me the most is that our SMEs are getting it now. That they really see that they have an advantage. That they can shift into the digital age and that AI helps them to do so. So I think if you combine all the money, not only from Germany, but from a whole European perspective, it's way more than we always think. And I think comparison billions to billions is not the right way, but as I said, to focus on special interests. And I think that we are very good in environment issues, healthcare, and so on. So I think not only the billions I have to be count, but is it enough? No, it's never enough.
Right. Okay. Thank you for your honesty, and I understand where you stand. So there is a question by Zulfikar. We have heard today, this morning, that, for instance, that AI will be less sexy now and more painful now that politics has got involved, especially because AI is so heavily regulated. We have also heard that in Germany, people, the first things they ask us, what's the ethical basis, how is the regulation doing, before we start to innovate and invent something. And the question is, what are your feelings on this?
Yes, I feel it sometimes the same way. We are working on a data strategy at the moment. So at the moment, all our ministries are asked to help us that we can use the data the government has. And of course, you have some ministries which are really going onward, and they are saying everyone can use our data and we can establish new fields in our environment, and other ones are really carefully about that. So my view on this is that I really hope that everyone sees the advantages, the chances, and that we can get away from the fear we really sometimes have in Germany, more than in other countries of the world.
Right. Thank you. There's another question regarding China. It says many people in politics and otherwise regard China as a threat to our technological sovereignty. Is that the only way of looking at this?
I'm really convinced that not in the short term, but maybe in the middle or long term, that we can be the winners. Because, as in the question before, of course, ethics is important. And like we had it at the in other discussions, of course, so many people laughed about us when we had in Europe our discussions on data protection and data privacy. But now some companies, even in the US, or now in a very actual example, when we launched our new app to fight COVID, the state of New York asked us for our app because they said it fits into their data protection. And so that's why I'm convinced that European AI with our values and with our ethics is on a long term the better one.
Right. I have a personal question because last year and the year before, I had the impression that a lot of topics that you care deeply about, like AI, like big data, and other tech topics, were really getting to interesting a lot of politicians, and especially in the cabinet. Almost every ministry was trying to have an AI vision outlook program of some kind. Of course, this year, everybody has to cope with COVID, right? Has this made your job harder, and has this put other topics front and center? Is AI maybe a little bit neglected in 2020?
Actually, my work got way easier because so digitization or AI or quantum computing or whatever you name it is nothing what everyone realized is something nice
Right.
to have, but it's really crucial. And I would say never waste a crisis. And no one asked for COVID, but now we have to deal with it. And now I think we have to shift it, not in the before COVID age, but to bring it to the next level. And that's what helped during the crisis, definitely.
Right, and something that is completely off topic. I mean, even before we had COVID, you had probably 10 or 12-hour days. Now, in the age of ongoing Zoom conference, how long are your days now?
I think that the time didn't change, but actually I would love if after the crisis we could have a 50-50. So before I had maybe 95% real-time talks and 5% Zoom, and now
Right.
it's 95-5 on the other side. So 50-50, I think it's like always in life would be the best one afterwards.
Right. There's one more very specific question about the implications of the Digital Services Act, its implementation in Germany, and what it will mean for AI. Can you tell us that even now?
Well, I would say at the moment we are still working on it. So to have really a deep and precise answer, maybe next week when we
Right.
gather together again.
Right, and maybe a question that is a little bit similar. You were telling us about the German strategy. How does it fit in with the European strategy and with the cooperation with strong partners like France, for instance?
Well, I maybe not to point it especially on AI, but it's like in every field. So we are working very closely together. I'm working very closely together with my colleagues too. But sometimes at some point you have to do your own decision, and maybe other countries are following or not. Of course, it's always better if we have a common strategy. And of course, we are talking with the Commission on a daily basis. But I think just to wait till all the member states are at the same speed is sometimes not really sufficient. So that's why I think it will fit in. And of course, there are big discussions on AI fields too, but it's always better to have your own strategy and then combine it with a European one than just to wait and see what's happening. So I think Germany and France, in the best case together, are in the lead, but we have other nations too we are working very closely with. And for example, I just met my colleague from Finland there when I mentioned in my speech, how can we educate our people on AI? How can we train them? So Finland is very far at this level. And so, of course, we are learning from the Finns too. It's not always only one country.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the information. Thank you for your perspectives and giving us an idea about your feelings. And I'm very glad that one thing is positive in the COVID crisis, namely that all your colleagues suddenly understand, and maybe even normal people on the streets understand how big of an issue digitization is. So thank you very much. Good luck in your work. Stay healthy. Thank you, Dorothee Bär.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure to have you.